Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Is it morning? Is it afternoon? I don't know. It's almost afternoon. All right. Hey, welcome to my daily housing crash update. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am the housing nerd. And so thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about investor purchases because the share and the number of investors purchasing homes, specifically single family homes, in the United States has plummeted in the last few years. So we're going to take a look at really what's going on with investor purchases. We're also going to talk about what's driving the change in investor purchases with investor purchases. You can probably guess what it is, right? Taxes, insurance, higher interest rates. We're going to talk about rents for a second, where rents are going. And we're also going to hit on what cities are seeing the largest share of investor owned homes in the United States. So to do this, we're going to look at Redfin, the Redfin rental section, and the links in my description below. You can go there anytime. And then we're also going to take a look at some Zillow data. So kind of like a hodgepodge of investor stuff and, rental information. But I think that this is a great video and a great time. This is a live, obviously, so you can interact, but this is a great time to, understand what's happening with investor purchases and really what it means for you. If you're someone who's out there, looking for a home to live in or looking for an investment property, then it's something that's, it could be top of mind because for a long time now, people have complained that investors are ruining the housing market. And once they, are gone, and once the greed, corruption, and fraud are washed out of the housing market, then real estate nirvana will rain down on me. So I get that impression from a lot of folks, but I'm going to present the data today and you guys can make your own decision on what you want to do. But there's no doubt that there are opportunities out there. And one could say, actually, it's more of a buyer's market now for the normal guy than really the last several years. And depending on what happens with the market, this could be one of the better times to actually go out and find a deal. Now, I'm not saying finding a deal like on the MLS list price. I'm saying going out and actually hunting. And so hopefully one of the things you gain from some of today's video, but also on my other videos, is how to kind of maneuver and be nimble and, be the little guy out there looking for a deal. Because let's face it, we don't need 100 doors. Maybe you only need 4 or 5 to make a big difference in your life. Or maybe you're looking for a house to live in. So anyway, let's get started on the data. Go ahead and comment below if you have any thoughts. I know who has a thought. Raymond Thoughts in Mind has a thought. What's up, Raymond? I really like your lives, man. Your lives are great. The ones that you put out there. I watched one last night about eating and your grocery bill. I thought that was really cool. So neat strategies there, man. Keep it up. What's up? Maybe because of seasonality. Well, yeah, it could be. But what you'll see in a minute is that in the last couple of years, investor purchases have, I don't know, man. They've gone down a lot, almost 50%. Almost 50%. Good morning, Mr. Plex or PLX, however you say that. It's Mrs. Sorry, I don't see so well on some of these screens. Mrs. Plex. All right, let's get started. Good morning to everybody. All right, so this is live, folks. You're gonna have to just bear with me as I move through some of this data. All right, so what we're gonna look at first is Redfin's investor center, I guess you want to call it, on tracking the housing market from an investor standpoint. Now, a couple of things to note here. Their data only captures 41 of the top 50 US metros. So they don't capture every metro in the United States. And this data is only aggregated from the top 41 of the top 50 metros. I don't have the list of metros that they have excluded, but they excluded them because of judicial states versus non-judicial states. So some states you can't actually grab public data like you can when it comes to judicial states. You can actually pull the public information. So this doesn't cover everything, every metro, but I think it gives us a good glimpse. So what I want you to pay attention to here is this is the national level investor market share. And this shows here the percentage of total home sales in which an investor was the buyer. And how they look at this is they go into the public information once somebody buys a house and they look to see if it's an LLC or not. And then I guess they count that as an investor. So maybe it's not necessarily all investors, but again, this is broad stroke information. This isn't like granular data from a neighborhood level. This is just kind of the trend and overall what's going on. But you can see this shows the number of investor, sorry, let me just move this. There you go. The number of investor purchases over the last, 24 years? You can see like back in 2000, and this is by quarter, by the way. So in quarter one of 2000, you had 24,000 investor purchases in the market. And this encompasses single family, townhomes, multifamily, and single family houses. So it includes everything there, but it doesn't include large multifamily. This is only residential being 4 units and under. So if I buy a fourplex, that's still considered residential, really, by technical standards and by lending standards normally too. So a duplex, triplex, quad, that is considered multifamily in this information. And then you've got single family, then you got townhomes and condos. All those are wrapped up into one metric on the screen right here. And I'm going to show you the breakdown by property type here in a minute. But this kind of gives us the overall trend. So you're at 24,000 purchases. Then it went in 2005, went up to 59,000 purchases in one quarter for investors. Then look at it crashed all the way down to 10,700 purchases in one quarter back in 2009. But then it slowly started rising. I guess slow is a relative term. In 2013, we hit 43,000 investor purchases in one quarter. And then you keep floating along here on a trend basically upwards until COVID. And this dotted line represents COVID. So now you look at that and you see where it went. It went from basically right before the pandemic in 2019, went from 64,000 units or investor purchases in the residential market nationally in one quarter down to 36,000. So it dropped a lot because of COVID. But then look what happened. Like literally straight up. So from quarter 2 of 2020 all the way up to quarter 3 of 2021, you're looking at now 98,000 purchases in one quarter. Remember, this is only for the top 50 US metros and only 41 of those metros. So we're not including all the other metros in the United States. But again, this gives us kind of a flavor of the trend. And so 98,000, that's just ridiculous, right? Kind of, I guess. But then it, seesawed a little bit and then plummeted again down to 44,000 in quarter 1 of 2023. You can see how fast that fell right after interest rates started increasing and the market got super tight when it came to inventory. And, taxes obviously skyrocketed. Taxes skyrocketed. Insurance is insane off the hook, right? So all the investors are feeling that. And a lot of them stopped buying. They kind of left the market. You can kind of see it in the data. But then it seesawed again. Now it's starting to trend up again at 53,757 investor purchases. So that's the trend overall. You can see, COVID created, and the easy money created a massive spike. It's nuts, right? It's a lot of it has, somebody just commented on here. Devang just commented that, I guess because there's less to buy. Also, I guess because there's less to buy. Yeah, there's just less to buy. Like before the pandemic, I remember I could go on the MLS. I bought like 2 properties on the MLS as far as investments. Like I bought 2 duplexes, I think, from the MLS. But there were properties to pick from. I remember earlier in that, like 2017, I bought a single family house in Columbus for like 26 grand. And it was like actually like halfway move-in ready. Like all I had to do was do some painting, some minor plumbing work, some touch-ups in the kitchen, some deep cleaning, but it had new carpet. It was ready to roll. And that was 2017. So it was easy to find something. Now, I think what Devang's pointing to is look at this number here. I mean, now it's down to 44,000 in quarter one of 2023 because, quite frankly, the supply was gone and the deals were gone, right? Overall, they were gone. But I would argue there's still a lot of deals out there. You just have to hunt. Okay, so that is overall the investor purchases. Now, this is what's interesting. Let's look at investor market share by category. This is where it gets really, I thought it was really interesting anyway. So this breaks down single family residential, multifamily 2 to 4 unit, condo or townhouse. I guess condo and townhouse, they classify those as two separate categories. But if you look at this, you can see the share of what most people are concerned about is single family houses. So within this same time period, look at where single family houses went to. And this is actually, let me do investor purchases. Yeah, so this is investor purchases. So you've got 73,000 of the 98,000 or so investor purchases in the United States in quarter three of 2021 were single family houses. Single family houses. It's a big portion, right? And then down all the way, it dropped, obviously, like the other trend showed us, and now it's 37,000 as of quarter two, 2024. But let's do this and look at market share. Share of investor purchases. Oops, sorry. Investor market share is what I wanted. So basically, this says that right now, single family house purchases in the quarter two of 2024, investors bought 16% of the market. Doesn't mean they own 16% right now. It means that they purchased 16%. You can see down here at the bottom, it says in this little box, I guess, home sales 227,000, investor purchases 37,000. So in those metros they analyzed, there were 227,000 home sales, and 37,000 of those were investor buys of single family houses only, single family houses. So yeah, I mean, they definitely are taking a portion of single family houses that are sold. There's just no doubt they are. And you can see here, multifamily, 2 to 4 units. That's to be expected, right? And by the way, if you're looking for a house, if you're like a younger buyer, even an older buyer, I guess it doesn't matter. And you're looking for an opportunity, like you're like, man, there's just nothing on the market that's affordable. I would take a look at 2 to 4 unit properties. If I could do it all over again, the biggest mistake I probably made, that my wife and I made in investing, was not house hacking. We've never house hacked. But that's a mistake I made, is what I'm trying to say, is that 2 to 4 unit properties, man, you move into one of those buildings, like a triplex, you fix up one unit, move into it, leave the others, decrepit if you want for a while, but slowly fix them up, then rent those out, then rent out your third unit, then buy a new building and keep the old one, or sell it, I guess. But the opportunity is there big time for owner occupants, and the FHA lending rules around owner occupied multifamily, that probably could be the biggest opportunity for younger first time people, looking to buy a house or a property and get a good value. I mean, the single family house with the granite counters and the hardwood floors, that's priced at market price, that sometimes gets multiple offers, has the trendy farmhouse look, maybe, at least in Ohio, that's trendy. Maybe it's not trendy everywhere, but like that, like run away from that, man. Like find a 2 to 4 unit property you can fix up. There are FHA loans that can help you, a 203K loan that can help you fix up the property with funding as well. The interest rates are favorable. The down payment is favorable. I think it's 3 or 5% now. for a multifamily, if you can live in it and house hack it, I mean, if I do it over again, that's exactly what I would do. I would buy a quad, a 4-unit building, and I would just uh, dominate, dominate. I mean, it would be great. When I say dominate, I mean dominate what I would normally do, which is, you go out and find a house in a subdivision. So anyway, that's my advice on multifamily if you're looking to move into it. But yeah, investors own a lot of multifamily. That's not a surprise. So 31% market share on purchases. Then you go down here to condos. I don't know if you guys care about that, but condos 17%, pretty high amount. And then townhouse 15%. All right, so let's look at this though. Price tier. This will kind of shock you. So this breaks down what price tier investors are buying. In other words, are they buying low-priced homes, mid-priced homes, high-priced homes? I don't have the actual metric in front of me on how they broke down low, mid, and high. It's probably in their notes. I apologize. I didn't look at that ahead of time, but I'm just going, okay, low price is, first-time home buyer type stuff. Mid-price is, a mid-priced house in the area. And then high price is obviously high price, I guess, like a luxury type house. So you can see there's no doubt affordable, low-priced homes are where they are really spending their time. Because if I look at share of investor purchases, look at that. 45% of investor purchases are in low-priced homes. 45%. What surprised me and what I saw an uptick in is higher-priced homes. Higher-priced homes. That's 31% of investor purchases now. So, and that's gone up. That's gone up. My guess is there are luxury home sellers that need to sell. They don't want to sell. They need to sell. They got in over their head. They need to sell. And there's not a big market for luxury homes compared to affordable homes. I mean, there are people that buy them, but those things tend to sit. They tend to sit. Investors come in and say, hey, I'll give you cash for it, 10% under asking, 20, 30% under asking. So I'm not surprised to see that necessarily, but it was interesting to see that trend in the data that, hey, investors are buying more expensive homes. So yeah, going back to, let me look at this too real quick. Here is year-over-year growth for investor properties. So this is the growth that they're experiencing. And look at this during COVID and after. During COVID, single-family residential houses for investors, they went down 42% in the rate of purchases, I guess you could call it. So in 2020, quarter two, they bought 42% less homes than they did in quarter one of 2020. So in one quarter, they just went to the basement. But then look what happened. It shot up 144% growth. So there's no doubt that investors like single-family homes. There's just no doubt. They do. I don't particularly like them, but that's just me. I could be setting myself up for failure later, but I like small multifamily. 2 to 4 units is where I'm at. But I do own some single-family, but there are some portfolios that own thousands of single-family homes. And we all have heard the stories, right? And there's a lot of builders that are building single-family homes to rent. Build to rent is huge right now because they know if people can't afford to buy, what are they going to do? They're going to rent, right? And rent prices haven't crashed. I'll show you that in a minute. Let me just go to the comments real quick. Raymond, what's up? Lots of good deals outside of major metro centers in the Midwest. Yeah. No doubt, Raymond. Thank you for mentioning that. Raymond's right. Get in your car and drive outside of the area you commute in. You live in some of these, and I've lived in them too. I'm not bashing anybody, but you live in some of these areas where it's like, you go to the grocery store, your kid's school, the gas station, the dry cleaner, the auto repair center is all within like a 2-mile radius of subdivision, city, right? Like a subdivision area. And you look around and go, oh, there's nothing for sale. Get in your car and drive. Go outside the city. And there are deals. There are people that will sell. You just got to ask them. We'll go over that as well here in a minute at the end of the video, end of the live. Thanks, Raymond. Countless single family homes under 140 grand in Midwest in good cities and towns. Agreed. I agree. They may need some elbow grease. They may need some work. They're not going to be all new and blingy, maybe. You know, a lot of porches that are converted into kitchens. That happens a lot in the Midwest. Happens a lot in Ohio, anyway. You're like, oh, this was an addition. This used to be a porch. Now it's like they're eating kitchen. Hey, it's just how bad do you want a house? How bad do you want an investment property? If you're waiting for like a burning bush to tell you to buy something, it ain't coming. No help is coming. Nobody's coming to save you. You gotta just go out there and make it happen. Uh-oh. Devang, looks like you're a lender. Are you a private lender? Shoot me an email in for my comments. I'd like to talk to you if you're a lender. All right. Let's keep going with the data. All right, so next I'm going to go over some highlights on rent because this I thought was important to hit on. And this is from Zillow. This is their October 2024 rental market report. And then after this, I'm going to go back to the Redfin data and show you the metros and investor share. But I thought this was important to hit on. The typical asking rent is $2,009 as of October, down 0.2% month over month. The pre-pandemic average month over month change for this time of year is negative 0.1%. So I guess it's down a little bit more than it was pre-pandemic as far as month over month decrease. I'm not sure that means a lot because rents are up 3.3% from last year. Since the beginning of the pandemic, rents have increased by 33.5%. So you tell me if rents are crashing. You tell me if they are. It doesn't seem like they are. I mean, they may be softening, like the growth isn't insane. Thank gosh, because that increase in home prices and rents is just obviously it's not sustainable for humans. I know that. But I'm just saying it's not crashing. Rents continue to go up, albeit at a slower pace, but they're still going up. They're not. A lot of people thought rents would like crash through the floor, but it's not happening because people need somewhere to live. If they can't buy a house, they're going to rent. It's a good reason to own rentals, by the way. And it's a good reason not to sell your house. If you have a house, don't sell it. If you want to buy something else, buy it. But for heaven forbid, don't sell your house. Keep your house, rent it out if you can to somebody, but hang on to it because they ain't making more land. Single-family rents. Single-family rents are now up 4.3% from last year. Since the beginning of the pandemic, single-family house rents have increased by 40%. So there's a difference there, right? Multifamily rents versus single-family rents. They're building a lot of multifamily right now. Like we're supposed to get more multifamilies this year, new ones online, in the market than we have since like 1994, I think. And last year, I think we had more hit the market since Nixon was president. So there's a lot of multifamily hitting the market. Now, I will say a lot of that multifamily is expensive. A+ multifamily, right? Where they have like a pool and a gym and like a little city inside of the apartment complex. Yeah, something Grant Cardone would buy, right? Like a hedge fund would buy it or invest in it. The problem is that property needs A+ rents. It needs a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 rent to sustain the net operating income and to pay their debt. Me, I prefer to buy, if I'm going to invest in apartments, I like apartments that are for normal people. I just feel like, hey, if I don't have to charge top line rent for a building and I can make the numbers work, that's much better than maybe being a little greedy and having an A+ apartment building where I have to go top market in order to make the numbers work. And not only that, there's a lot of competition. There just is. I like taking older things like that, older apartment buildings or older, duplexes and making them nicer for normal people to live in. That's kind of my thing. But yeah, multifamily. Now look at this. We'll go down and look at this. Multifamily rents are now up 2.3% from last year. So Single family rents up more than multifamily rents. People would rather probably live in a single family house with a yard and, fenced-in yard for the dog, or place to barbecue, and, a garage maybe, and, neighbors not, on the other side of the wall, a place where you can crank your music, and just kind of do what you want. So I think the single family rents will always be better than multifamily, is my opinion. Not everybody likes single family houses. Some people don't want to move in one, but a lot of people do. Since the beginning of the pandemic, multifamily rents have increased 26.9%. So you can see what single family rents increased 40.5%. Multifamily rents have increased 26.9% since the pandemic. Not as much. They have increased, but that's I thought that was important to highlight, is that the kind of where rents are. Because what does all this mean? Well, if you go back, we run back to the Redfin data here, and you look at, let me just go back to investor purchases and national purchases by, you just go back to national purchases by investors. You can easily see that, hey, investors aren't going anywhere. There's been some ups and downs, but overall, the trend has continued to go up. I mean, even if you go all the way back to 2000, quarter one, 24,000 purchases, now you're at 53,000 purchases in a quarter. So it's like, yeah, they continue to buy property. They know it's a good asset. They know it is. It's going to have its ups and downs, but they know it's a good asset. So their rents haven't crashed. So it's like, if you're waiting for investors to leave the market, I don't know what that even means, because they haven't left since the year 2000. So why would they leave now? Maybe they will. Maybe they'll just run out of the market and all buy Bitcoin. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like they're running away from the market. So again, I just think if you're waiting on other things to happen to allow you to buy a home, that's it's not a great strategy, in my opinion. You have to go out there and find what you want now. And they exist, like Raymond said. They're out there. Opportunities do exist. You just have to look. And look hard and do things others are unwilling to do. Just like most things in life, right? Do things others are unwilling to do, or think are a waste of time, or they're too lazy to do. Generally speaking, you can, be successful, I think. So, all right, that is investor purchases. The other thing I was going to look at here is the metros. So let's dive into some of the metros. See, share a category. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, that's not right. Bear with me. National. All right. So I'm going to look at Columbus, Ohio. Share of investor purchases in Columbus, because I live in Ohio. I'm outside of Columbus. So during the pandemic, same situation, right? Investor purchases dropped, and then they didn't drop too much, actually. Well, I guess they went down to 767 purchases in a quarter, then spiked to 1,900 purchases, and then down now to 910. So investors are still buying in Columbus. The problem is Redfin doesn't break down the price tiers or the property type for us by metro, just investor purchases, basically. But let's look at some other metros here. Cincinnati, the nasty natty. Back in 2000, they were at 666 and a quarter investors bought, and now, and then they went up to 1,700, and now 960. So kind of like Columbus. Point is, they're still here. They're still buying, and they're starting to head up again. We got Intel and all this other technology development here, all this, Silicon Valley of the Midwest, I guess, or Silicon Heartland, whatever you want to call it. Cleveland. What's up with Cleveland? Look at this. Holy Toledo. Back in 2000, investors bought 446 units, houses, properties, whatever. Then in the pandemic, they went down to 869, and then they've kind of just kept going up since the bottom back in quarter one of 2009. It's just kind of steadily rose. 1,575 at the peak. Now 1,213. So there are more investor purchases in Cleveland than there are in Columbus or Cincinnati, probably because the home prices there, generally speaking, are less. They're less by, I think the median in Cleveland's like 250. Around there. In Columbus, it's like 350. Cincinnati, though, I think it's like 275. So a lot of inexpensive homes in Cleveland to buy. Probably a lot of older homes that need a lot of work, right? A lot of work. New wiring, roof, windows, foundation, probably old siding that needs replaced. Basically a complete gut job. Let's look at another metro here. Some metros that are like known for insanity with investors. How about Atlanta? Whoa. Whoa. I mean, look at that. Investor purchases 3,000 in Q2 of 2020. Then all the way up to 12,600 in Atlanta in Q3 of 2021. Man, I mean, that, like, look at that. Whoop, whoop, straight up, then straight down. Now 3,191. So this place actually, maybe if you were waiting for investors to go away, maybe in Atlanta they kind of did a little bit, 3,191. And then back in 2006, there were 4,200. But like, this would have been the time to buy if you didn't want to compete with investors. And by the way, if investor share has actually dropped to this level, it has, right? It's dropped almost 50%. That's what my title of the video or the live said, and it has. If you look at the peak, right, over the last couple of years, it's dropped nearly 50% in demand. Like, if you see that big drop, like anything, you want to buy when it's low. So there's probably less competition now with investors. There's probably, just less competition. So now would be a good time to go hunting, to find an opportunity that financially makes sense for you, not to just run out and buy something. But you guys know that. So that's Atlanta. Let's look at, where else should I look? Do you have metrics for Utah? Mrs. Plex. What's PLX stand for? I wonder what that stands for. I'm curious. Utah, let's find out. I don't know if they're in here. No. I don't think so. I don't see it. Sorry, not in here. That data is not available. I think that's a state where you can't pull the public info. I think. Could be wrong. But sorry, I don't have that info. All right, let's look at maybe another one. Let's look at Detroit, because I know a lot of investors who buy in Detroit. I mean, obviously here, look at Q2 2002. That was the all-time high. 1,300 purchases, 1,400 purchases. And then it dropped, obviously yo-yoed and yo-yoed and yo-yoed. Everybody dropped during the pandemic, right when it hit, right? No activity at all. 505 investor purchases, then all the way up to 1,300. Now 1,000. So it's going back up again in Detroit. I'm just looking for one that shows maybe a different trend. Miami. Yeah. Boy, this one didn't drop that much. Like, look at it during the pandemic. It went down, but not like it did from the other cities comparatively. Then back up to 4,000, but it actually recently hit a peak of 4,200 units in Miami. Now it's at 2,250. Wondering if I can year-over-year growth of investor purchases, investor market share. Yeah, let's use this one. So this investor market share, just another way to look at it, 28% market share. Wow, of home purchases, 28%. That was sobering for a second. Geez, let me go back to Columbus and see what it is in that metric. 15% now in Columbus. Man, at one time it was 25% in Columbus. So we had 6,200 home sales in one quarter. 1,500 of those were investors. Jeez. So they are buying, obviously, and they're continuing to buy. Let me go back and look at Atlanta. 37% at the peak in Atlanta of the market was purchased by investors. Now 18%. See what I mean? So it's obviously their total number of purchases went down too, but now you've got what? A 10, what is that? It's a 15% approximately difference in the number of homes they're buying, or the number of the amount of market share, I guess you could say. And so because of that, there's less competition, less people. You're not getting as much, hopefully, in places like Atlanta. You're not getting people putting in 5 and 6 offers cash over asking because they just have a ton of cash sitting on the sidelines, right? Money's much more expensive now. It's 7, 8%. If some investors are paying 9, that's much different than 2, 3%. And taxes and insurance are nuts. You can't do anything about those. I mean, you can do something about insurance. You can shop it, but taxes, you're stuck. All right, let's see what else is going on in the comments. Smokescreen. Hey, all. I'm still in the sidelines looking around rural towns outside of Toledo. Good for you, Smokescreen. Keep looking. Keep looking. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so that was like all the data I think I wanted to present. Let me just check my list. We did that. We did that. Yeah. So this speaks to what Smokescreen said. If you're out there and you want to buy a house or an investment property or whatever, what I wanted to highlight was the way that I find them is to drive for dollars. So it's a cheesy name. I don't know what else to call it. I think that's an industry term. I hate saying it, but it's it is what it is. But I call it driving for dollars. It's basically getting in the car, you take a trip, you drive around your market, maybe some areas you haven't been to, and you look at some neighborhoods you want to buy in, you plan it out, plan the drive and the day out, and then you go and you look for houses that look like they need help. Look for houses where, maybe they have like a bunch of weeds growing around the house. Maybe they have a boarded up window. Maybe they have old roofs. Maybe they even look abandoned. And write down the addresses. Then go back to your house and research the owners of those properties to find out who owns them, what their mailing address is. Then write a letter that says, "This is who I am." Keep it brief. I want to talk to you about buying your house. Call me if you're interested, and then send them a letter. You'd be surprised how many people reply and say, "Hey, I'll talk to you about it." Now, not saying they'll sell it to you at a price you want, but if you do it enough, you will find somebody who does. You will find somebody who does, because at the end of the day, it's really about just putting enough lines in the water to find the right opportunity and do stuff that others are unwilling to do. So not a lot of people who are looking for a house to live in, even an investment property, take the time to do all that work, because it takes a lot of work. You got to research the area. You got to know what type of property you want to buy. You got to go out and make the drive. You got to write all that info down. You got to track the properties, then do the research on the owners, send out the letters, and then follow up. There's a lot of time there, and it takes a while. So you got to have patience too. You may get lucky and find one off the bat, but it can take a while. So that's how I would find opportunities. If I had to find a house to live in today, that's how I would find my house. I would not find it on the MLS. Even though I'm a realtor, would not find it on the MLS. I would go out and drive for dollars. That's exactly what I would do. Got a good question here from Mrs. Plex. How do you time the market to make an investment purchase? I would say I don't time the market, or to me, I don't time the market. I look at if I'm buying a rental, I look at the numbers as far as what are my goals? How much cash flow do I want? What ROI do I want? What am I after? What type of property? I figure that out. And then I set up what some refer to as a buy box. Some refer to as I call it a deal funnel. And basically, I then start tracking all the properties that fit that type of criteria. and I look at the properties on the MLS. And if you don't have the MLS, then just ask a realtor for the data and have them send it to you automatically, like every week, every month, whatever, every quarter, however you want it. And then I take a look at those properties that are selling in the market, and I look at the averages. So what's the average cash flow I would get out of those properties? Um, and then I look at my goals and say, all right, when I find one that meets my criteria, then I go make an offer. And I make offers that are usually disrespectful, right? They're offers that are under market, they're under asking. And I keep making offers and hunting until I find one that works for my numbers rather than trying to time the market. That's what I do. So I'm not trying to battle something that's kind of an enigma, right? Because at the end of the day, if you know a place rents for $1,000 a month, like the average single family house in your area rents for $1,000 a month, you know where, you know what taxes are. You can figure that out pretty easy. You can get an idea for insurance. You can network with people and get an idea for property managers and what they charge if that's something that you need. And so once you educate yourself on kind of what the parameters are of the asset you want to buy, then all you have to do is go out and find the asset that fits that criteria. So the type of house is easy to find because you can just look at it and go, oh, is that the type of house I want? Yeah, it is. But then you have to make an offer with financials that work for you. So if the asking price is 100 grand on that house that rents for 1,000 a month, but you need it, you have to buy it for 80 grand. That's where you make the offer. You don't make the offer at 90. And so instead of waiting for prices to come down, you just go out and find the properties you want and then make the offers that make sense to you. Now, if you make an offer that's insanely low, like half the asking price, it's possible somebody takes that. Probably not, though. So, your chances are lower, but certainly there are opportunities out there and houses and properties that, where people need to sell. And those are the ones you want to make those disrespectful offers on. I hope that made sense. Is it possible to get cash flow right away without putting a lot of money down? It is possible. I'll tell you the thing I like to do, Mrs. Plex, is, well, I guess going back a second, I have a house flip rental cash flow calculator in my description, a link to it. It's free. You can go to it. It's on Teachable. You have to register for Teachable and all that stuff, but you can download the Google Sheet or the link, however you want to do it. And it'll help you calculate cash flow with different parameters. There's also a video on my channel that shows you how to use it. It needs refresh though. The video and the spreadsheet definitely need refresh, but it's at least maybe a starting point for you on calculating cash flow, but you can definitely find it. One of the ways I find it is by seller financing. That's my favorite tool by far when it comes to financing. So what that means is if you find a duplex, for instance, and the person who's the owner wants, let's pretend just to make math easy, they want 100 grand. They're not going to take less than 100. That's just the way it is. Your math tells you you have to buy it at 80 grand. Well, what options do you have? Well, if you're going out to a bank to get financing, you may be paying like 7-8%, depending on where you're going. Okay, that's one option. And let's pretend at 7-8%, your math doesn't work. So you're like, I'm sorry, I can't buy your house for 100 grand. I need to buy it for 80 or 70 or 60 because I'm paying 8% interest. And because taxes have gone up a lot and insurance is expensive. Well, figure out what payment you need, what payment makes sense. And then you can always negotiate with the seller and say, I will give you 100 grand for the property, but I'm going to ask you to carry the financing. You're going to have to be the bank for me. And I need my payment to be here, whatever that number is for you. Maybe that number is like, pretend it rents for $1,500 and you negotiate a payment at $500 a month with the owner. All right. Now you have a $500 mortgage payment rather than a whatever $800-900 mortgage payment. and what you'd have with a bank. And so there's your savings, and you can also negotiate that down payment. So some owners and sellers, this may sound shocking. One of the biggest problems that landlords have, that I've ran into, who've owned properties a long time, especially landlords that not necessarily, they don't need money, they don't need cash right now. They those folks sometimes stress about getting a lot of money. Sometimes they don't know what to do with the money they're going to get. So in other words, Mrs. Plex, if you gave them $100,000 cash at closing, they wouldn't know what to do with it. And depending on their tax situation, they could get slaughtered with capital gain tax that they're not aware of. So seller financing makes a lot of sense for them sometimes. It's actually favorable. Sometimes it actually helps them rather than you giving them all the money at closing. So I would research seller financing if I were you. That's how I try to buy properties, because in today's environment, it's one of the ways to make the numbers work and to help out the other side too, if you're, in a lot of situations. So that was a long answer, but I hope that made sense. Oh, yep, you already asked that. Yeah, so it doesn't really, it depends on the situation. But generally speaking, I always try to make the property cash flow at the very beginning. Now, sometimes if the property needs gutted down to the studs, or all the units in the building, like you buy a fourplex and none of them are rentable, well, having cash flow day one's impossible. So what do I do in that situation? I ask the seller, hey, I'm going to need 3 months of no payments, or 6 months of no payments, or 6 months at a really low payment in order to get the building stabilized. Then I'll up my payment for you. The cool thing about seller financing is you and the seller can create almost any scenario you want outside of the bank. And there's a lot of naysayers you'll see on YouTube who are in real estate that don't understand that. They think that it's all like shadow banking and like illegal. But you just get your lawyer involved, have them help you write up an offer, and the mortgage, the note, the whole 9 yards. You do enough research, jump on one rental at a time. Mike Zuber, he has awesome information on seller financing. Just great network of people on there for investing, period. So anyway, I get excited about seller financing, if you can't tell. Ohio palm trees. Huh, I love that name. We're living in the second Gilded Age. The biggest homes in Central Ohio are owned by families that own a majority of the city and rentable properties. Yeah, there are some huge homes in Ohio. A lot of space. A lot of space. And space is relatively inexpensive compared to other areas of the U.S. I have some clients that come out that have moved out from California and Arizona for this whole Intel thing that's going on. And this is scary if you're a local. They come into Ohio and they're like, man, we could buy 5 of these properties because our median sale price where we're from is $1 million. And here it's $350. So it's like everything's on sale here, even if it's at market price. So yeah, there's a lot of big properties that are for sale. The rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. Yeah, I hope not, but a lot of people seem to think that. Anyway, I like your name, Ohio Palm Trees. That's cool. As a side note, my wife and I are trying to grow a bird of paradise in Ohio, but it's a struggle. Can't get it to bloom. They can buy a few homes and quit their jobs. Well, maybe. I don't know. I have some homes, some rental properties. I can't quit. I'm still waiting for like the payoff on that. It's just a lot of old homes that need a ton of work. So a lot of capital going in there. We sell palm trees to Ohio. What? Oligarchs. Oh, oligarchs. Okay. Well, I'm not an oligarch, so I can't afford a palm tree. Great. Thanks for the comments. That's awesome. Wow. I was on for 49 minutes today. I didn't think I'd go that long. Anyway, thanks for your participation. Thanks for watching today. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the support on the channel. got, I'm not trying to be the biggest channel in the world. Obviously, I probably will never be, or not the biggest real estate channel. I'm just looking to, help some people who are just normal and, just looking for, maybe one or two investment properties, maybe some strategies on buying and selling their home they live in now, and just kind of keeping their finger on the pulse of the market. So, yeah, I'll keep doing that. And thanks for joining me this morning. I will see you tomorrow morning on my next daily housing crash update. My name's Jason. I'm out. Thank you.